Senator Chamberlain.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to go down back a road. Senator Goodwin mentioned to me earlier, are you going to keep saying those same things you've said 15 times already? Yes, I'm going to. I'll remind people what we're looking at here, two contrasting views. Our view, my colleague's view of opportunity and economic freedom, and your view, our opponent's view, in which this bill represents, is overreach. Before I make another comment, I want to follow Senator Miller's lead. I want to thank the hardworking Minnesotans who provide these daycare services and these PCA services to citizens and other families. And that's why we're here. That's why we spent 16 hours on the floor for them. But what are we doing here? Doing the same thing we've been doing for months. We're taking more from the hardworking Minnesotans. We're making more false promises. If Senate File 778 passes, the result will be higher costs and fewer choices for more Minnesotans for daycare services and PCA services. It's simply unprecedented. It's simply another example of DFL Senate overreach. But this time, you're putting yourselves and unions between families and their children. And you're forcing unionization on small businesses, private businesses, mostly run by women. Now, 2 days ago, on this very floor, one of our colleagues invoked some words and phrases which, frankly, I was very surprised. I was very happy to hear. He'll know who he is when I mention it. Constitution, Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We also spoke a few times during this debate, Madam President, members, about the Constitution. Warmed my heart. You know, during one of the breaks out here, I walked around the rotunda to wake up, stay awake, stay alert. And again, I was looking up at high on the walls of all those ideals about the law, about why we're here, about what the law means, about what the Constitution means. It's very helpful. But specifically, what my good colleague mentioned was this, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Well, hoorah, I love that. And that is what was invoked 2 days ago on this floor. But what did this bill represent today in the last 16 hours that we debated? Now, I got a little hot, and when Senator Hoffman, I believe, mentioned the Constitution and First Amendment issues. But what does this bill represent? After all, what are these Minnesotans trying to do with their livelihood? They're trying to pursue life. They're trying to have life, liberty, and pursue their own happiness. As I said, these are private businesses, mostly small, couple of employees, members, and mostly owned by women. And what we have learned, and has been repeated in this third reading, is that 86% want nothing to do with being unionized. They are fine. They want to be left alone. They're not asking anybody for anything, no intervention from the state. Nonetheless, here we are with our colleagues that Senator Miller questioned, admitting they either don't know what their citizens want or they did say what their citizens want. What the DFL is attempting to do, Madam President, is to force an unnecessary, unwanted, costly, complex piece of legislation on private business, imposing unionization on these businesses that are mostly owned by women. I'll repeat: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Other people invoked the Constitution in the last 16 hours. It's a good thing to remember. And then First Amendment issues came up, Madam President. And it certainly is a constitutional issue. Most of our laws are based on these ideas of life, liberty, happiness, property rights, free association. And my colleagues mentioned that just about door knocking. What this bill is, again, is an overreach. It's an absolute affront to those ideals that many in here proclaim to hold near and dear to their hearts. They proclaim from the Senate floor, and perhaps to others, but this legislation is an absolute affront to those ideals. It's de facto confiscation, nationalization of private property to the thinnest of connections, Madam President, because a third party, because a private business gets a small subsidy from the state via a third party. That is the connection to deem these people state employees. Where does that end? Where will that lead? How many companies and businesses out there get subsidies, members, from the state? If this legislation passes, you will set a precedent. This is unprecedented in what the state can do or is willing to do unrestrained, and no sense of restraint and constitutional restraints. So opportunity and overreach, Madam President and members, and you're overreaching on this bill. You know it. Senator Miller and others pointed out there wasn't much support for this bill, but you have one last chance to go red. But maybe it's too late because you've gotten this far with it. Opportunity and overreach. It's going to cost more, fewer choices, and who will get hurt in the end? Who will get hurt? Those people you claim you want to be helping. Hardworking Minnesota families, taxpayers, they're the ones who are going to be hurt. So you have one last chance, members. Go red. Thank you.